process, and I was elected the vice president somehow, some way. But definitely appreciated it. And so what this is just kind of a development of what we know is the phone tree process. So unfortunately, I work in technology, I work in security, and the issue is that I take things that are a bit antiquated, and I do apologize. I kind of feel like the phone tree process is a bit antiquated. How many times, like out of everyone in the room, probably about 70 to 80% of you have smartphones in your hands, but how many times are you actually calling, right? You're really not using the phone feature. What you're doing is you're using a mobile app, or you're using a text message, or whatever be the case. What ends up happening is that people end up utilizing technology appropriately. So I changed it a bit to reflect a communications tree versus utilizing the phone, right? Of course, we're utilizing everyone's phone number, but at the same time, we're going to be utilizing text messages and mobile applications. And so I'm going to delve in a bit deeper with that. So next slide, please. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that with any block club, communication is key, right? The gentleman earlier said, communication is definitely making sure that you have strength in numbers, right? And so that is critical. We wanted to make sure that as a participant within our block club, that we were relaying information accordingly. So regardless of what it is, we wanted to definitely make sure that all of the residents that were part of the block club were aware of any incidents whatsoever. Next slide, please. So one of the communication methods would, of course, be 911, and everyone's always calling 911. I'm sure they may have a site. They may or may not have a site associated with 911. That would be my recommendation, if you could actually plug emergencies online. I'm not sure if we are up to date with anything of that nature at this point. But one thing I did notice with 311 is that there is a mobile application that's out there for the city of Chicago, which is denoted as Chicago Works. So if anyone has an iPhone or an Android phone, you can actually download it, go to the mobile store and download that application. So I have it on my phone, to the extent that if there's an issue on our block, I'm making sure that I'm reporting it accordingly, but also relaying that information to all of my cohorts that are on the block. So I wanted to make sure that was quintessential for the communications process. What we have here is just a series of different websites. We have ShyText, we have cityofchicago.org, and then we have another website as well. So there's so many different ways. You don't necessarily have to call. I know within the standard age of technology, we've become a lot more informal, if you will. So a lot of people are not necessarily comfortable with calling nowadays. They're more comfortable with texting. They're more comfortable with the mobile application. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone realized that there are other methods out there. And so in addition to that, I created a text group for our block. And so if anyone has heard of the mobile app called GroupMe, if anyone has heard of the mobile app called GroupMe, it's just a method of relaying any information over to a group of people, right? So again, it's another mobile application that's available for Android and iPhone users. You can quickly download it, but it allows you to send group messages to a number of people at one given time. And so what I did was, when I learned about it, I utilized it for the block club, and it works. Literally, I don't have to go through the phone tree and call you, and you. I can just quickly relay that information, add those individuals to the 6768 block club group, and then whatever I send in a text format is going as a text blast to everyone within our block club. So it's a lot more efficient for our block club members. Next slide, please. So I also created an email distribution group, right? So and I associate everything with technology, so I do apologize. I kind of feel like, calling someone is a bit antiquated, as I mentioned earlier. But with the email distribution group, what I'm doing is I'm holding myself accountable for relaying messages over to the group, right? And then not only accountable accountability is key, but you also have reference time, you have history, right? So someone can always go into the group message or their email boxes and check for that information. You're going to have that at your convenience. If you're looking for something, you have a historical copy of it. And so that helps with the email distribution group. So we have minutes that are relayed via the email distribution group. We also have agendas. So any documents that we want to relay ends up coming through the email distribution group. So any concerns, any of the South Shore Neighborhood Network information actually gets relayed through our email distribution group as well. So whenever Val sends over an email, it automatically, I believe you have our email distribution group address, so that automatically gets relayed to all of the group members that are part of the 6768 block club. And then we have our email box, in which our president, Clark, who's back there, if you can stand, if you will. Our president and our secretary are responsible for relaying that information to all the members of the block club. And so as a result of that, I wanted to limit the amount of individuals that I would actually have access to it. So even for myself, I try to stay a bit hands-off with the email box, leaving it to those two to relay any information that needs to occur. So we have the email box, we have the distribution group, we have the group me for text messaging, and we have the series of various methods to contact 311. Right now we have so many various requests that are out there for our block. We have a series of potholes. We want to make sure that the bolts are being changed. We want to make sure that the trees are being trimmed and etc. So if it was just me doing this on my own and going through 311 or either calling or going through the service request, it's not going to be much of an impact, right? And so strength in numbers, as one gentleman mentioned earlier, what I'm doing is I'm relaying through GroupMe, in addition to the distribution group, my service request number and the request that has gone out there. And so what ends up happening is that all of the members of the block club end up getting that type of information. And so they say, hey, you know what? This is important to our group. Tree trimming has been a problem. It's created an issue in terms of visibility on our block. The lights are out. We have potholes. And so other members of the group can also send that information over and create service requests. And so if we have, let's say we have 20 people on the block club, but 10 of those individuals end up sending service requests, the goal is that we have the distribution group so that we can keep track of that information. And so strength in numbers, the more service requests that we have out there, the more we expect the city to actually handle those issues. Next slide. Okay. So this is quintessential. With crimes, the expectation is that the initial member that communicates the concern to the group not only relays the information to the remaining members, but also reports the incidents to the police and reference the report incident number within the group message. And so that kind of plays into what I mentioned earlier in terms of the service requests. But in terms of the crimes, what we wanted to do is utilize the same features. Because if someone notices a crime or notices someone suspicious on the street or whatnot and just calls 911, well, that's going to make a little bit of an impact, right? Recently what's happened is within my condo building, someone tried to break in. They took a crowbar to the side door, right? And they were trying to get in. This was a few minutes after the heat came, right? And so it was totally unexpected. People actually were home, and we were thinking someone would actually hit our house in the morning when people were at work. So totally unexpected. And so I had to run through my process. And so when you have a detailed process such as this one, right, that everyone follows, it helps your community. And so I looked at it and said, okay, what's the first thing that I have on my list, right? I need to make sure that I'm relaying this information to the police. I knocked on all the doors for everyone that was in my condo building because it was a quintessential emergency at that point in time. I didn't want to necessarily relay it via GroupMe or via text message because I wanted to make sure that everyone was on high alert. But what I did for the rest of the block club was that I sent a group me message to everyone, just placing everyone on high alert that someone tried to break into our building, right? And so someone literally had to have jumped over the gate and taken a crowbar to our door. And so I asked a few neighbors whether or not they heard anything, and what they told me was that they heard a few voices, but they did not know what it was. And so at that point, I told them, whenever you hear any voices, whatever it is, take my number and call me, right? What we're going to do is we have to hold people accountable. We, as residents, have to be responsible, right? And it was interesting because I looked at my shirt while I was here, and I said, man, I guess it was a reason why I wore the shirt, right? How random was that, right? Being a neighborhood vigilante, right? But definitely wanted to bring awareness to everyone that was in our building, right, first and foremost, and then informing everyone on the block that, you know, this person cannot get away with this incident, right? We wanted to make sure that if they happen to break into, you know, someone's house that are a few doors down, that everyone was aware of what was going on. And so when I told this to the police officer that showed up a few hours later, unfortunately, because at that point I had been awake and I had gone to work and I was waiting for this person, and a few hours later I had dozed off on the couch and woke up and said, okay, someone's at the door. But I walked him through all of the steps that I had taken, and he was in complete agreement that all the steps I had taken were appropriate. And so I implore everyone here to take those same steps. You know, the information that we have in the communications tree, if anyone has any questions regarding it, feel free to contact me. I can walk you through whatever needed in terms of setting up the GroupMe account, setting up the group distribution, you know, for your respective block clubs. But it gets to the point that I'm sure people get a bit annoyed with the text messages that they receive from me, but at the same time, it brings awareness to what's going on within our communities.
This is a question for the coordinators of the assembly. Is this information going to be deposited somewhere so we can make reference to it after today? Is there a website?
Yeah, we're going to
that we can-
talk about the communications line, so this will be posted on that website.
This and all of the
And I
presentations.
can, yeah, I can email it all out
Okay.
as well for now, but there is a site that's going to be set up on all of it.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice to get to know you. Our whole purpose today is to improve communication. That's our whole purpose, block by block, improve communication. So yes, you will get this information sent to you. All right, we have our last presenter for this morning, Ava St.
No, I'll keep it.
She's going to get started in a few minutes here.
I can keep it.
Now, how many senior citizens do we have in the building? Okay, I am too. I just want to say to you all who are not computer literate yet, how many of you are computer literate? You haven't even, almost everybody here. You're progressive, that's why you're here. Yes. There are a lot of us who are holding people back by not becoming computer literate. We need to have email addresses, and we can stay on top of things and receive whenever anything happens in the community that we should know about. A lot of times it comes through emails. So if we do not have an email address or don't know how to access it, we could be limiting ourselves. Something could be going on in our community that we will never find out about. So learn. So if you're not currently, if you have friends who are just dragging their feet, like my husband here, I had to put him on blast. He has an email address, but the last time he opened it up was probably a couple of years ago. Our son, we have a young son, but he's not that young, but he's 27. He helped us a lot, but he got tired of us saying, well, what is your email address? What is this? I'm asking all the questions. He really got tired of it. So I took some classes.
constituents.
All right.
Hey.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
My name is Ava St. And I'm a resident here in South Shore. I'm in the 7500 Block Club of Clyde, so 7500 Clyde. And I've been here in South Shore for about 6 years. No, just kidding. Oh my gosh, so 4 years. And I've been in Chicago about 6. So, but either way, I came here. I love the neighborhood. Really a big fan, and we're here to stay, bought and everything, so we're done. So what I've been working on for a little while, I did urban planning in school and then sort of came here, and what I've been learning over time is how technology sort of affects different communities and how we all communicate differently. And so I've been doing some research with the Pew Internet Research Center and a couple of other places here at UIC about how different demographics communicate differently. And so on the heels of the phone tree conversation, here it is. So this is sort of me just talking about how it's time for us to integrate traditional communication with digital communication to change our community, because a lot of us are still talking face to face. And that, at first, my assumption was it was just the African American community or Latino communities, but it's actually everyone. So this is just sort of basically me creating a program that utilizes all different types of communication, not just digital, but also face-to-face and print. So here we go. So technology prevents us from getting to know each other. Who believes that? Too much internet time is like really killing us. Actually, what you'll find out is that's absolutely not true. Next slide. Basically, internet use, the Pew Research Center found that internet use is not correlated at all to reduce likelihood of knowing neighbors. So if you did not have a computer, or if you do have a computer, it does not reduce the likelihood of you getting to know your neighbors. It's simply about knowing your neighbors. You just got to get out and do it. Simple as that. So there's no amount of tweeting or texting or emailing that's going to stop us from getting to know each other. You just have to get up the courage to walk down the street and do it. I still haven't done it with a few people, so it's okay. But yeah, that's what I've learned. So this is sort of what we found. So a lot of folks, how they communicate and how we communicate specifically about community issues. So those who are Black, non-Hispanic, what they tend to do is they tend to talk face-to-face with neighbors, right? Talk face-to-face, that's about 46% of people. But what we did find out is 28% of those people only talk to people that they knew, right? So basically, what that means is that we're constantly talking to the same people all the time. So the information never makes its way out. And what we're doing is about 25% of people, 14% of the Black community follows people on Twitter. They use Twitter. That's 14% of the Black community, which is actually more than half of everybody who uses Twitter consistently, right? 18% of us use community blogs to get updates about news or issues and things like that. 10% of us communicate primarily on our phones, or 70% of us communicate primarily on our phones via text. So if you look at these numbers here, I think I did that backwards. So 25% of us communicate with text, 62% via the blogs, and then 70% text. But what we're learning is those people who are using Twitter, those 25%, 14% are using Twitter to follow community issues, right? So it's not just, hey, I'm here, I'm hanging out, whatever. I actually want to know what's going on in my community. And 18% of the people who, of that 62%, actually use community blogs to get updates, right? Huffington Post, it used to be every blog, God, bless all souls when they left us. But, and then the other 10% use their text messaging about community issues. So basically what we have is a gap. And it isn't because people don't want to use it, it's just because it's not really available to us right now. So what we're looking at is, man, people actually are using these technologies, and it isn't that we're not using it, it's just that we're not using it for community stuff. So, next slide. So that was like my oh snap moment, right? Like, okay, we gotta do something about this, this is gonna be great. Let's figure out some way to actually tie all these things together. So what we did was I've been working with Val with the Connected Blocks program, and basically figuring out ways that each block club representative, each block club president would be responsible for getting out both word of mouth information and any print information into the central server. So basically creating a central server for each neighborhood, specifically South Shore first, that holds all the information, like what Ali was talking about, all the text and the GroupMe and all of that stuff, putting it in one place as a depository so that we have access to it all the time. And basically how it would work, next slide, is this is sort of like a mock-up of the thing, I'm still working on it, but basically it's a really simple tool. I'm CISO 649, 75th and Clyde or Merrill, what's going on right now, today? And this thing will be able to pull up the whole depository from everything that everybody's been putting into the system. Okay, so somebody just broke in, or hey, there's a meeting going on today. We have a lot of crossovers of meetings here in the neighborhood, and you'll be able to do that. The hope is eventually we'll be able to do this in every single Southside neighborhood first, right? Now that we're not going to do it all over the city, but that we'll do it here first. And then once we're strong, we can kind of fold in the rest of the city. Because what I am finding is that when I go up north and I hang out with my friends in Wicker Park or downtown South Loop, they got all kinds of information. I'm like, well, dang, nobody's into that memo. I like how y'all know, but we don't. And it's because of this constant issue with communication. So basically, that's how it would work. And I know how I was saying that there's sort of administrative privileges for certain people. So what I did was I set up block clubs come first. This is actually different from most other platforms where it's usually like a hierarchy, right? So you have the corporation tells you what they want you to know. This system belongs to the people. It is funded by the people. It will not be funded by any corporation or large entity. So this is actually yours. So block clubs have the highest administrative rights on this thing, rather than a political organization or anyone else. The second administrative rights are community organizations. So they have administrative rights to update with important news and events. Like, I just found this, I just found that. But it'll actually be the block club presidents, people that we kind of, identify throughout the block club model, who moderate that. So we'll be able to, you can't really use it to campaign, right? You can't really use it to advertise to our community. You can't use it to sell us stuff we don't want or need. But you can use it to help us, right? And then residents. Residents, of course, residents receive the information and have access to posted news and events as well. So they'll be able to go on, they can post things. We're still trying to work out the kinks as to whether or not they'll be able to do it without permission or not, but that's something that we still have to work on. And then as far as protection, all information is monitored by UDO. I named it, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. It's called UDO, which means peace in Igbo. But UDO, the name of the platform, administrators to be sure information is appropriate and privacy is protected. So we'll be sure that your information isn't running all over the place and people aren't using it for things that they shouldn't. So this is what UDO does. Basically, these are the people who will be able to use it. Block clubs, community organizations, residents. UDO collects word of mouth data for block clubs. And what we're playing with right now is the ability to upload PDFs and have the program read the PDFs, right? So we don't have to, what I'm finding is a lot, we'll have an email, and then we'll attach a flyer, right? And then we'll say, okay, in this flyer is all these things. Well, this system will be able to just sort of read through that PDF and just shoot out the text, rather than having to upload a whole bunch of documents. UDO sends text to those who prefer it. So a lot of our people, what we have been missing is, we have a lot of folks who don't have smartphones. Yes, we are a very large percentage of people who use smartphones, but a lot of people are still using old phones, bricks, right? So they're like this whole group, like they don't have that. So it's really important to get the text to those who prefer it. And I think, I don't know, my partner Billy isn't here, but we were sort of figuring that most of our elderly here text people over the age of 70, not 65, but people over the age of 70 actually use text to communicate a lot. Text, yeah. Right, because a lot of people, in that age group have access to computers, but they may not necessarily have them in their home, especially in the lower income brackets. So they have access, it's easy to go get a cricket phone and go get a boost or something like that, and so they're constantly texting. And UDO, no matter what you do, whether it's texting or not, is always online for everyone to use. So this next slide sort of talks about, and I know I'm talking kind of fast, I have a lot of coffee, you guys, I'm sorry. Yeah. So these are the other ones that were available to us that we can use. Neighbor Tree, they're not currently available in our area and have not been for some time. We've been in contact with them for a little under a year, and they're still not here. The next one is Next Door, which is okay. I actually met with their representative a couple months back. The problem is they're based in San Francisco, and I couldn't figure out who owned it. And the first thing that she says to me was that we had to originally sign up using either a credit card or verifying our address. And I think that some of that was about privacy, but we don't roll like that. I'm not about to give you my credit card information so that I can get online. And we don't know who owns the corporation. And it requires boundaries to be drawn in the neighborhood. So I did help her redraw the boundaries in our neighborhood because they were really bad. They always are for some reason. So that helps. So if you want to use that, you can. The only issue is, like I said, they require a lot of sensitive information in order to start an account. And I think Sally and our neighbors are right now on that store. So, but and then every block was sort of our mainstay. I know a lot of people were using every block. That's what we used. It was like our bread and butter. So all the community organizers were using, and then they stopped. And in some respects, I believe it was because of profitability, because it's very difficult to keep something like that profitable. And so this is the plan eventually, once we kind of get the one for South Shore up and rolling, is the higher need areas. So South Shore being one, with Blue Ridge, Jackson Park and ours. Then next is South Chicago, Chatham, Inglewood, and Bronxville. And then once we, basically it's sort of a pyramid, once we go off the highest need areas, then we can kind of go off the medium need areas, and the low need areas, and sort of move everyone else in. And I think that's it. Yeah, this is the impact of change, happy, empowered communities, and all together kind of understanding what's going on. And this is my contact information. A lot of you have already kind of working on some things. I know that I'll contact colleagues, definitely. But if you ever want to know what's going on with this project and you kind of want updates, if you Google Southside Goes High Tech, I blog every day, like I'm constantly out there putting stuff onto the system and I'm letting people know what's going on with it. So please, once you Google it, it's the first thing that pops up. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, do you guys have any questions? Everybody good? Sweet.
Thank you, Dave. All right. April will be around if you have any questions. Ali will be around also as well. We're going to have lunch now. So